Hello everyone, welcome back. Well guys and gals, it's been a little while since I've done a fig tree update, and I figure I'd go ahead and do something. It's been a little learning experience, trial and error stuff, and a lot to learn, a lot to play around with. And so the last time I did one of these is I planted some peas or beans in here. I planted some beans, and yes, the beans made, but I felt they were more detrimental to the fig tree than beneficial. Why would they be beneficial? Because beans and peas are supposed to restore nitrogen in the soil, though a very small amount, and I just didn't see anything. They took nutrients from the soil, various nutrients, but I don't feel that the return was worth it. So if you've noticed, what I've done is the tractor, my son got out here with the tractor, then disced up a little grid, and so I'm going to be gardening this area here next spring. So I'm going to turn this into like a I don't know, just a garden. I'm going to have my orchard out here, plant me a couple of more fruit trees next year, probably some nectarines. So what I was doing is a couple of times a week, 2 or 3 times a week, I would come out here and haul water out here to the trees, and I would fill these up, say twice a week or so, sometimes 3 times a week. And I feel that just was not getting the trees enough water. They were surviving, but they were not thriving, if that makes sense. And so here in Southeast Texas, we've had a pretty brutal summer, even by Texas standards. Usually we get up in the upper 90s, but this year we've been in the 102, 101, 102, 103 range. So whatever water was going into the soil with these 1 liter bottles, I feel it was just being sucked right out with evaporation. So a couple of weeks ago, I ran a water hose over here, and this is creek water. I'm pumping this from a creek near my house, straight here to the fig trees. And so come out here and just saturate the soil twice a week. And if you, from what I understand, if you keep the roots of a fig tree too wet, it'll promote root rot. The other thing working against me is the roots are very close to the top of the soil. Like you could just dig through here and see if we can find us some roots. I've got all this mulch and stuff in here. See, right there, that's a fig tree root. See how close see how close that is to the top of the soil? So any type of, if you let the soil dry out too much, then it's going to harm the tree. So what I noticed was whenever I started bringing the water hose over here and just drenching it, I'm talking just drenching this mulch. This is a combination of manure. I put manure in here and some mulch, some compost. Went to the top of the hill, where they were clear cutting, and they used what's called a delimber to remove limbs from the pine trees. And so I got several bucket loads, probably like 6 or 7 bucket loads of pine mulch, pine tree bark. Brought it over here, spread it around, and then whenever I started cutting the grass this year, started throwing the grass in here. So this is grass, mulch, I mean just all kinds of stuff. But put some bone meal in here, but I just was not seeing any results. And then I decided, well, I think it's the water. I think they're just plain not getting enough water. So I ran the water hose over here, say 2 weeks ago. I've been doing this for 2 weeks, and I'm starting to see new growth. I'm starting to see new growth where the trees with the 1 liter water bottles, hauling water over here a couple times a week, they were just surviving. This one here went through where it dropped a lot of its leaves, dropped the figs. I don't blame it on the heat, just blame it on the water. And so, but ever since I got this water hose over here, I tell you what, guys, it's a whole new ball game now. I just want to I do this about twice a week, say Saturday and Thursday or so, or Sunday and Wednesday, Sunday and Thursday. This time I did it last Saturday or last Sunday, then again on Friday. So I went almost a whole week, and then here I am out here 2 days later. But thankfully, even though we're in a drought, water's not a problem. That creek stays full year round, as far as I know. Almost 100 years, it's never gone dry. Cuts through the hills of this southeast Texas, so I think it's pretty close to the water table in some areas. All right, come on over here. And same thing with this one. I mean, this one here was, I was doing the same thing. I think this one here is a really good example. It was surviving, but it was not putting on any new growth. Then I came out here and you put the water hose on it, and I've got new growth coming out, guys. Right there, coming out, where it just was not doing that with these water bottles. Now, I still use the water bottles. I fill them up while I'm out here. I wasn't getting enough water. That's what I think. Just was not giving them enough water. Now, this past, yesterday, they're getting a little bit of water, a little bit of fertilizer. Yesterday, and I did another experiment. So I took a rake, and on 4 of these fig trees, I raked up down almost to the roots. And some of them I did go to the roots. Remember, these roots are shallow. It's not like we're going down a foot or so. And I spread Epsom salt, bone meal, and blood meal on 2 sides. And then just laid the water to it, guys. I'm talking, brought the water hose over here and just drenched it with water. And even then, I just watered these, and it just soaks it up, guys. Just soaks it up. And so, same thing on this one. Mulch, compost, some manure. And that was bought from Lowe's, but the grass clippings and the wood chips came from local. And so, hopefully we're going to be doing all right. Now, this one over here, I have to say, this tree here has done the absolute best out of all of my trees. This one here, it's a brown turkey fig. I planted it 2 years ago, and it is just, even whenever that one over there dropped a lot of its leaves, this one here was still going strong. Now, this one here did drop its figs, and so it just was not getting enough water, even though I was hauling the water over here by hand. That new growth coming out there, even though I was hauling the water over here by hand, keeping the water bottles on them 2 and 3 times a week, it just was not enough. Haul the water hose over here, and then by golly, we got growth. So these fig trees use a lot more water than what I expected. And I thought that fig trees were a lot more drought tolerant than that, but I guess I was wrong. So they're supposed to be a Mideastern fruit tree. So I figured, coming from an arid region, that they'd be able to hold, do okay with their water. But I was wrong. So if you're not getting the growth that you want, then mulch and pour the water to it a couple of times a week, depending on where you're at. Now, I've seen people that have the fig trees in the pots, and man, they talk about this growth, explosive growth, 2 foot a year, and some of my trees, I'm just not seeing it. Even with what's that called? The Job's fertilizer spike. I put some Job's fertilizer spikes in here, bone meal, Epsom salt. But I think the draw of what I was doing wrong was I just was not giving them enough water. All right, guys. Well, that's it for now. I will talk to y'all later.